Hello Hamilton, it's Mrs McVicker. I hope you're all well. I'm missing being at school and seeing all your lovely happy faces. Today is a horrible day outside, so I thought I would come in and read you part of one of my favourite books. Today I'm going to read you an extract from The Hobbit. The Hobbit is by an author called J.R.R. Tolkien, and he wrote this book in 1937, which is a very long time ago. And I read it when I was in year 5 or year 6, I can't remember when, but I definitely was at the top end of primary school when I read this for the first time. And the start of this book stuck with me for a very long time, and it really took me away to a completely different world, which is what reading is for. Okay, reading is meant to be fun, and I found this book when I was a child very fun. I haven't read it for 30 years, so actually I have started to read it again, and I thought I would share you the first part of it. J.R.R. Tolkien was a very clever man. He was a professor at Oxford University, and he was friends with C.S. Lewis, and they were in a little club called the Inklings. And C.S. Lewis wrote The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and the Chronicles of Narnia, and they're about at the same time. It is said that J.R.R. Tolkien used his experiences. He was in the First World War, he fought in the First World War, and that informed part of his thinking behind The Hobbit. I don't remember that because all I remember is wizards and elves and lots of wonderful things. The other reason I love this book is because it has maps. I'll show you the map. There's a map at the front and a map at the back. I won't show you the one at the back because it belongs to later in the story, but there you go. You have a little look at that map. Okay, and you can see where the characters go and what they do. And I always like looking back and referring back to a map when I'm reading a story. Now, from a teacher's point of view, this is an excellent book because the author is amazing at describing setting and character right at the very start. So when I'm reading to you, I want you to think in your mind about how his description makes you feel. What can you see? There is a very famous film called The Hobbit, and I have never seen it, ever, because I don't want it to ruin my image of what I have in my head of The Hobbit and where he lives. And this is the first part of this story. So I'm going to start off with chapter 1, and it's called An Unexpected Party. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel, without smoke, with panelled walls and floors tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs and lots of pegs for hats and coats. The Hobbit was very fond of visitors. The tunnel wound on and on, going fairly but not quite straight into the side of the hill. The hill, as all the people for miles around called it, and many little round doors opened out of it, first on one side and then on another. Not going upstairs for the Hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries, lots of these. Wardrobes, he had whole rooms devoted to clothes, kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side, going in, for these were the only ones to have windows. Deep-set round windows looking over his garden, and meadows beyond sloping down to the river. The Hobbit was a very well-to-do hobbit, and his name was Baggins. The Bagginses had lived in the neighbourhood of the hill for time out of mind, and people considered them very respectable. Not only because most of them were rich, but also because they had never had any adventures or done anything unexpected. You could tell what a Baggins would say on any question without the bother of asking him. This is how a story of a Baggins had an adventure, and found himself doing and saying things altogether unexpected. He may have lost the neighbours' respect, but he gained, well, you will see what he gained in the end. The mother of our particular hobbit what is a hobbit? I suppose hobbits need some description nowadays, since they have become very rare and shy of the big people, as they call us. They are, or were, a little people, about half our height and smaller than bearded dwarves. Hobbits have no beards. There is little or no magic about them, except the ordinary, everyday sort, which helps them to disappear quickly and quietly when large, stupid folk like you and me come blundering along, making a noise like elephants which they can hear a mile off. They are inclined to be fat in the stomach. They dress in bright colours, chiefly green and yellow, wear no shoes because their feet grow natural leathery soles and thick warm brown hair, like the stuff on their heads, which is curly. They have long clever brown fingers, good-natured faces, and laugh deep fruity laughs, especially after dinner, which they have twice a day, when they can get it. Now you know enough to get on with. As I was saying, the mother of this hobbit, of Bilbo Baggins that is, was the famous Belladonna Took, one of the 3 remarkable daughters of the old Took, head of the hobbits who lived across the water in the small river that ran at the foot of the hill. It was often said in other families that long ago one of the Took's ancestors must have taken a fairy wife. That was of course absurd, but certainly there was still something not entirely hobbit-like about them, and once in a while members of the Took clan would go off and have adventures. They discreetly disappeared and the family hushed it up, but the fact remained that though the Tooks were not as respectable as the Bagginses, though they were undoubtedly richer. Not that Belladonna Took ever had any adventures after she became Mrs Bungo Baggins. Bungo, that was Bilbo's father, built the most luxurious hobbit hole for her, and partly with her money. That was to be found either under the hill or over the hill or across the water. And there they remained to the end of their days. Still, it is probable that Bilbo, her only son, although he looked and behaved exactly like a second edition of his solid and comfortable father, got something a bit queer in his makeup from the Took side, something that only waited for a chance to come out. The chance never arrived, until Bilbo Baggins was grown up, being about 50 years old or so, and living in the beautiful hobbit hole built by his father, which I have just described for you, until he had in fact apparently settled down immovably. By some curious chance one morning, long ago in the quiet of the world, when there was less noise and more green, and the hobbits were still numerous and prosperous, and Bilbo Baggins was standing at his door after breakfast smoking an enormous long wooden pipe that reached nearly down to his woolly toes, neatly brushed, Gandalf came by. Gandalf? I'm going to stop there, because Gandalf is a very important character in The Hobbit. I hope you enjoyed that extract, and I hope that you try and seek The Hobbit out and give it a read, and let me know what you think. Thank you. Bye-bye.